The lower grill done, I started on the upper grill, and the bottom piece of the upper grill is wider than the rest of them. The slats are 1 inch wide, and I used 2-inch piece on the bottom. I did that so I could mount the grill. I could weld my vertical uprights onto that, and plus I could bolt it in the stock bolting area or stock mounting areas of the 70. So I started with another jig, and this jig's a little steeper than the lower level or lower grill, and that jig is clamped on. I started by clamping it onto my bottom piece like that, and once I got it in position, so it's 2 inches wide, so my slats will lay in front of that, the other inch. This is 1 inch and this is 1 inch. Worked out perfect. I drilled holes in that jig and mounted it to my lower piece. This is similar to what my lower piece looks like. I did that on that side, and then I did one on this side as well. It gives you a little more detail picture of how that's put together. So the next step was to lay my horizontal slats on top of that and figure out my spacing. I wanted to compensate to close in that opening in the center that I talked about before that the stock grill has, and it's approximately 1 inch, maybe not quite 1 inch. And so what I decided to do was I spaced the outer edges of my grill or my slats with 5/8. Then the center, I spaced those with a nut that basically measures 11/16. So I was picking up 1/16 of an inch on each slat, gaining that, and by the time I got up to the top, the center is 5/8 to 3/4 closer than what it would have been if you ran them all straight. So that closed up that gap in the center, and following is some more information on that. I made a jig to space the pieces, hold them in place. And this jig basically is just a couple pieces of aluminum running at the right angle. It's about a 10-degree angle and spaced out 1 inch and then bolted together. And then I use spacers on both sides and down the center to get everything to fill in my opening on my grill. You'll see I used, on the side, I used pieces of trim that were 5/8 thick. And in the center, I used nuts that were 11/16 thick. So what that did was I gained 1/16 of an inch on each opening from side to the middle. And that ended up raising the center about, filling that gap in about 7/8 of an inch. And so now the top of this fits my hood, and I don't have that gap in the center anymore. So by adding that a little bit wider in the center, that filled that in. The lower grill, I spaced with 5/8 all the way through. So those were consistent. And that fits in my valance opening at the bottom. Once I had everything mocked up, basically clamped in my jig and spaced out, I had a friend cut me the vertical pieces. And each one of them, he cut the bottom angle and then each notch matches that angle. And the notches are 3/8 deep and an 1/8 inch wide. And so what that does is that will slide right on there. And that equally spaces all the slats out. The lower grill were all spaced 5/8. So I had him make all 7 of these the same. Put them on there, TIG welded each one of the slats, and pulled my jig off. Now I've got it, it's sitting at the right angle, it's spaced equal, and it fits in my opening really nice. I'm going to trim the top and the bottom of these verticals off when I put it in the car. The center, or the upper grill, was a little more difficult because I wanted to fill in that excess in the center. And by adding, going with 5/8 and 11/16 in the center, each one of these vertical pieces were a little bit different. These are spaced 11/16 and these are spaced 5/8. Same with that, on that end's 5/8. So I've got 1, 2, 3 vertical pieces that I had him divide the difference between the 5/8 and 11/16 into 3 and made each one of these vertical pieces just a little bit different. The spacing, it's about a 32nd of an inch difference. And so now what I'll do is I'll put each one of these vertical pieces, I'll start laying this out and putting them in. And once I get all these put in the right place, I will TIG weld the back of these as well, like I did the lower ones. So I've got all my vertical pieces set in place, lined up, spaced equally, and what I did is I made a little pattern like this that I put in between each piece. I got the center one's level, and then I just use this piece to space each of the others. Then I TIG welded the top. I just put a little dot on each vertical piece. It's the first time I've ever welded aluminum, so it's probably not as pretty as some of you guys could do, but it'll work. I'll sand that down and I'm sure it'll look fine. I'll probably get better as I work on it. So there's my grill with all my vertical pieces set in place. I'm gonna go ahead and finish the edges now, and then I'm gonna weld each one of these bottom pieces. Finish welding these, clean everything up, fit it in the car and see how it looks. So this one I welded an end on it, and this one I didn't. I think I like that better. It matches with those down there. So I believe I'm going to take that end cap off both sides.